Hey guys, welcome to art today. I'm not going to be here today because my son has an orthodontist appointment, so you will have Miss Libby here and she's going to get you started on your next project. We talked a little bit about lines yesterday and discussed how we can use lines to either evoke an emotional response in the viewer when someone is looking at our artwork, or we can use lines to express an emotion that we are personally feeling. So we're going to put that to practice this week when we create our next project. I like to call this project Birds in Flight because you're going to be creating the silhouette of a bird and then create the illusion that that bird is actually flying through the air by creating some lines out behind it. I can modify this project for you if you would like. If you would prefer that your bird be singing and have the lines coming out of their beak, that's fine as well. So that'll make a little bit more sense when you see my example here in just a moment. So I have posted the instructions for this project on Google Classroom, so you have those there for your reference. They look like this. There is a full sheet of instructions, and then if you scroll down, there is a page that has a couple of examples of this project. I also have an actual example of the project right here that you can use for your reference. So this will be up in the front of the room on the board, so you can take a look at that if you need to at any point throughout the day today. Okay, so you guys are going to go ahead and get started on this today with Miss Libby, but I'm going to go ahead and go through the instructions with you now so that you know what to do. And then if you have any questions, of course, ask Miss Libby. I'm going to go over them with her, and she can help you out. So the items that you're going to need for this project, and you'll probably not need all of them today. Actually, you're not going to need all of them. All you're going to need for today is your paper, a pencil, and a Sharpie, but I will list all the other things when I go through the instructions with you right now, so please keep that in mind. So you're going to need a large piece of paper, which I have out here for you on the demo table. You're also going to need a pencil, a bird template, which I have in this little envelope, which is called Birds for Line Lesson. So all of the birds are in here. I have a variety to choose from. I have a Batman symbol, which of course a bat is not a bird, but you can use it. I have these little like hummingbird templates. This little guy that kind of looks a little bit like the Twitter bird, but not really. There are multiple of each one in here. I have this little guy that kind of looks like a hawk or maybe an eagle of some sort. There is also one butterfly template in here, so please share nicely. And I think that is it. I think those are all of the different birds that I have available for you to choose from, but there should be multiple of most of them. So when you're finished with them, please let your friends use them and put them back in this blue envelope when you are finished so that other classes can use them next time I do this lesson, okay? So this will also be on the demo table for you to use when you're ready, okay? So that's the bird template. You're also going to need a black Sharpie. I have those right here as well. I got a whole bunch of new ones, so there are a bunch available. There are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 black Sharpies. So when I get back to class tomorrow morning, I better find 20 black Sharpies in this container. So please put them back where you found them, okay? Use them as needed and then put them back. And then eventually you're going to need watercolor paint and a paintbrush, but we'll get to that later when it's time, okay? So I'm just going to read through the instructions for you right now. Of course, they are available on Google Classroom, so you can go back to the instructions at any time if you need to. Okay, so step 1, using a pencil, you are going to write your name on the back of your project. So this, of course, would be the front. You're writing your name on the back. Put it in the corner with a pencil. Do not write it jumbo on the back of the page because sometimes we can see that through your artwork. Use a pencil, write it on the back in the corner, please. Okay, so write your name on the back in the corner with a pencil. Then you're going to choose one of the bird templates. You're going to trace that bird lightly off to the side of the page. So here's what I mean by this. So in my example, I shifted my bird off to the side of the page here so that I had all the space in the back to make it look like the bird is flying through the air. So if you want to make it look like your bird is flying, shift your bird over so that its little face right here is kind of facing the edge of the paper. You could even kind of put it up in the corner and have your lines going at a diagonal. That would be fine. But if you want to make it look like the bird is singing, flip that bird around and put it on the other side of the page, and then make your lines coming out of the beak. But leave the majority of the space where you're going to put your lines so that we can see all those beautiful lines going across the page, okay? So position your bird where you want it to be, whether you want it to look like it's flying or if you want it to look like it's singing, just position it accordingly, okay? So you're going to take your template, you're going to trace the bird with pencil first, and then you're going to grab one of the Sharpies and you're going to fill it in completely so that it looks like a silhouette of a bird, okay? Once you're finished with that, you're going to go back to your pencil. I got pencils right here too in the little cup. Please make sure that you use these accordingly and put them back where you found them at the end of the class period. Feel free to use these pencils, okay? So after you've traced the bird, made the silhouette with the Sharpie, go back to the pencil and you're ready to start working on your lines, okay? So next, use a pencil to create at least 10 lines portraying the following emotions. The emotions that I want you to render are right here on the instructions, okay? I'm going to read them to you now. You need to make lines for excitement, fear, calmness, happiness, sadness, nervousness, tired, blah, joy, creativity, and then you may add more if you would like to. I've had a lot of people ask today, like, what is blah? How do I make a blah kind of line? So just kind of think of what it means like when you're in a blah kind of mood, like you're not happy, but you're not sad, you're not excited about anything, but you're not bored, you're just kind of in between. So that's kind of what I mean by a blah mood or a blah line. So come up with a line for each one of those moods or emotions, okay? You're also going to notice right above the emotions right here in this little paragraph, it says, be sure to start your lines at the back of the bird, or if you're making it sing, make your lines start where the beak is. Extend the lines to the opposite edge of the page, giving the illusion that either the bird is in flight or that it's singing. And then the last sentence right here, it says, at least one line must be made of words and one line must be made of shapes. So you're going to have 10 lines total. At least one of those lines needs to be made out of words, whether it's cursive writing or print or maybe it's a bunch of different words that you really like, or you're trying to describe something. Just make sure that one of your lines is made out of words. And I showed you yesterday in my example kind of how to do that, okay? The same thing goes for shapes. Whether it's a pattern of shapes or one shape that's repeated, go ahead and make at least one of your lines out of shapes, okay? I'm going to show you some on my example here in just a moment, okay? Once you've penciled your lines in, then we're going to go over about 5 of them. You can do more than 5 if you want to, but we're going to go over at least 5 of them with watercolor paint or watercolor pencil. You're not going to get to that today because you just won't have time to get to that, but when you come to class tomorrow, be prepared to start using some of the watercolor paint for that portion of the project, okay? Once we go over the lines with the paint, then we're going to go back over all of our lines with Sharpie. Here's what I don't want you to do, so please, please listen carefully. Don't go over your lines with Sharpie at all until the very last step. That's the last thing that you're going to do before you turn it in. What happens is, and here's an example on mine that I have here of what not to do. On this one, I went ahead and did my pencil lines on this blue one right here. I went over it with pencil, then I went over it with Sharpie, and then I went over it with the watercolor paint. And look at how the watercolor paint just kind of bled, made my Sharpie bleed into the paint. We don't want that to happen. This red one right here is an example of the right way to do it. I did my watercolor first, and then I went back over the lines with the Sharpie so that we could really see those lines well. It really makes those accentuated and pronounced and makes our eyes drawn to those lines a little bit more. So please make sure that you are going over with the Sharpie very, very last, okay? Alrighty, so once you have penciled in your lines, use watercolor paint to go over 5, trace back over your pencil lines with a black Sharpie, and then you'll be ready to turn it in on Artsonia. We'll turn these in either on Friday or Monday, so don't worry about like rushing through this project. We have plenty of time to get it done, okay? So those are the instructions. I do want to kind of point out a couple things on my example here. So I mentioned one of your lines needs to be made out of words. So I have one right here that's made out of words for your example, and then I have a line here that's made out of shapes. This line right here is a combination of lines and shapes. That's fine as well. I have these little circles down here, so I made another line right there with shapes. So you can do more than one with words or shapes if you want to, but the requirement is that you have at least one of each, okay? And yours don't have to look just like mine. Make yours how you want them to be, okay? The next thing I'm going to go over with you is the rubric. It's very basic, very straightforward. I'm only going to take about a minute or so to go over this with you, but the information on the rubric tells you exactly what your grade is going to be when you're finished. So if you follow everything on this rubric, you'll get all 50 points for this project. It is worth 50 points. So I'm going to just go ahead and read this to you now. I know it's backwards on your screen, but just bear with me, okay? So the first requirement here says that the bird is traced nicely and is filled in completely. So 1 to 5 is how many points you'll get for this one. If it's outlined but not filled in, that's in the 1 range. If it's completely filled in and it's nice and neat and tidy, that's the 5-point range. So you'll get anywhere from 1 to 5 points depending on how well you fill in that bird silhouette, okay? The next one, student drew 10 lines, one to represent each of the listed emotions per the instructions. 1 through 10 are listed right here. I'm going to count how many lines you have, and that's how many points you're going to get for this project, for that portion of the project, okay? So it'll be very black and white. So if you have 4 lines, you're going to get 4 points. If you have 10 lines, you're going to get all 10 points, okay? Next one, student created 1 line using words and 1 line using shapes. Each of those are worth 5 points. So if you don't have any words or any shapes, you get 0 points. If you have one of those kinds of lines, either words or shapes, 5 points. If you have both words and shapes, you'll get all 10 points. Student used watercolor paint or watercolor pencil to detail at least 5 lines. Here's what I mean by that in my example. So notice how some of my lines are only made out of Sharpie and some of them I've gone over with the watercolor paint or watercolor pencil. That's what I'm looking for. So 5 of your lines at least need to be outlined just to give it some variety and a pop of something interesting to add to your piece, okay? So that's 1 through 5 points. I'm going to count how many you have gone over with the watercolor paint, and that's how many points you'll get. Student retraced all lines with Sharpie for emphasis. It's going to be really hard to see your lines if they're not traced back over with the Sharpie. So please make sure that you're going back over each of those lines very, very last before you turn it in with Sharpie so that I can see each one of those very clearly, okay? And then the last part of the rubric has to do with your written response. That's the exit ticket. So student completed exit ticket using 3 to 4 complete sentences including correct grammar and punctuation. So you're going to get anywhere from 1 to 10 points for your written response for this project as well. Okay, so I will just total this up, put your little number right here out of 50, and that'll be your grade for this project. So you have the instructions, you have seen the rubric, you know what it takes to get a really awesome grade on this project. Please feel free to look at those examples that I posted on Google Classroom. The one example that has the person yelling and you can see like all the lines coming out of the person's mouth, there's some really great examples of the way you can use words and shapes for your lines. One of the lines is also made out of an Xbox remote cord. So that was one that I had created a long time ago, back when most Xbox controllers had cords on them before everything was wireless. But that would be a great way to incorporate something maybe that brings you joy if you're a person who enjoys gaming, or if there's something else that you would like to incorporate. I've had a lot of students use images in their lines to really kind of give it a personalized touch. So feel free to do those kinds of things as well. Okay, I will be back tomorrow, so we can go over any of the things that might be confusing for you on this project when I get back tomorrow, but you have enough information from watching this video today to get started on this project and be ready to continue working tomorrow when we get back to class. Please email me if you have any questions. I should be available via email if there's any confusion, but I think Miss Libby should be able to answer any questions for you today as well. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.